regarding automobiles, yeah. Episode 7, the one where I fixed the rust off the hatch and off the rear taillights. This is actually a problem on these cars, the R53s. Very common. All the ones I was looking at that were in my price range had rust back there to varying degrees. I'd seen few where all the metal around the lights were actually completely rusted out. The problem, as far as I can tell, after I'm shooting this part of the video, obviously after I'm done the work, was that when you look down in the wheel or in the light well, there's a seam in the metal, and to me it just looks like water gets trapped down in there and rusts out the whole area. It looked like a pretty poor design. The other part is the metal where the handle where you lift the hatch. That whole chrome trim was all rusted on the top. Showed you all this on the first walk around. So I'm gonna show you. This obviously massively sped up. I think I spent 8 or 10 hours doing this. So I'll speed up everything, add some voiceovers, and show you everything I did to get it fixed. Started off with a quick clean. I know it's gonna get messy, but decided to start with a clean anyway. Next was removing the chrome trim, which meant removing the license plate. Everything here screws into sort of plastic little connectors in the back of the car, but the screws themselves rust and get stuck in there and kind of fall apart. It's all connected by a single wire that controls the light and the button that opens the hatch. Didn't want to lose that little wire, which I almost did, so I just put some duct tape on it to keep it there, and it actually worked out well. Once I got it off, this is what I found. A lot worse than I thought. This is where I really realized that how much longer this was going to take than I had originally anticipated. So got to work. You remove these panels inside the trunk, and inside there's just a single nut, a long screw, and 2 clips that you can undo with your hand, and that pulls the light out. And then there's a single clip wiring harness that pulls off individually, and all the light bulbs are in the unit itself, and you just repeat it on the passenger side. Once I took a look here, you can see, and you saw this earlier, it's the seam, water's getting in there, it's starting to rust. This is the driver's side. Obviously it has to be fixed or it's just going to keep going. On the passenger side, this is what I saw, and I did not clue in. I knew something was wrong when there was no seam, but I just didn't clue in as to what was wrong. Also the paint, I thought, well, it got hit by rocks or gravel or something. It didn't occur to me that maybe it wasn't adhering properly to whatever was underneath it. So again, I missed some signs as to what the actual issue was on this side, and there's a little rust, but I really want to fix that paint. Right about here is when I got my first major warning that something was wrong on this side. When I started using the stripping wheel, massive amounts of dust were coming off, and I still thought maybe they just used a lot of primer. So I kept going, and here's me realizing what was actually happening and staring at it and realizing it was going to get even longer than I had originally planned. Once I realized that they had welded in new metal already and covered it with not even Bondo, I don't know, some chalky substance plus primer, I expanded the area I was stripping off and just want to get rid of that bad paint that was all chipped off. You can see under the hatch here, after I'd used the stripping wheel, that in some cases the rust was so bad that it created holes where there wasn't supposed to be holes. So I realized that this is going to have to all be patched up. So in order to get the sort of underneath here, under where the hole is, I can't really sand back there very well, so I'm going to use some of this stuff. Got it off Amazon. Just put it on there and see if it holds up. And it can't hurt to put it on the inside. It's nothing on the outside. I'll cover that with other things. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I thought I'd talk a little bit about the light that came out of there. Looks like it was probably a wrecker piece that they put in there, because obviously they tried to fix it. Well, it's broken. I could maybe like fill this with plastic or something and try and get it back together. But the actual where the screw is, I'm not sure if you can see that, is split, so it doesn't hold in properly. And I went to buy just the piece of plastic off the back, and it was $30. And then I went to buy a whole light, and that was insanely expensive. A used light, I didn't go to the wreckers, but I just checked on Kijiji, and people wanted $100 for them. So that's not really a great deal. So I figured, since I'm already changing everything, why not order some random lights off of eBay? So here we are, the random lights off of eBay. They just arrived today. Guess I can take this off. Just arrived today. Okay. Well, the bolts are extremely long, but it looks like oh no. Well, I'll try and get closer here. They stick out like this. So, I thought it was looking like this, but then it had like a cover over it. Whatever, let me get the other one. Yeah, so I mean, I guess they'll look better, and at least they'll stay in place. And the pair was $100 shipped, so whatever, I'll take that upgrade. So this is the piece that came off. Try and get a good shot here. A little rusty, I'll clean it up. But what the really important thing is that I need to get screws in 4 separate holes, and the things that were holding that in, like the piece of plastic that was holding that in to the actual car, were just all rotten. So as soon as I tried to take them out, obviously they just disintegrated because they're plastic. So I picked up a set of these. I'm not sure what the best way, in front of me maybe. And so I just need to keep that in mind when I'm actually putting this all back in. So I'm gonna put some Bondo in there, and I'm trying to fill in the holes, but it has to fit that little white thing back in. So I'm not sure the best way to do that right now. I might just fill it all in and then cut it out after with something, with Dremel or something. We'll figure it out. next few minutes, if you're a body shop guy or you actually know how to use Bondo, I suggest you look away. Yeah, so I've just finished putting the first round of Bondo on, which I've never done before. It's pretty ugly, I'll admit. I guess we'll just see what happens. I had a hard time getting the mesh to stick behind it, even though it's self-sticking. I was holding it and just kind of moving around. But from what I read, it's supposed to be kind of ugly the first time. And then you sand it down, you put the second coat on, it looks a little nicer, and so on and so on. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so third day working on this. The second stage of putty here is dry, so that's good. And the third is going to be, although they both say stage 3 on them, but whatever. I'll sand that off. I'll sand that off, and then I'll use this stuff. Sand that off, and then I'll be ready for primer and paint. Let's get to it. got the glazing putty on, just on the parts that are going to be visible. I didn't really put any under here because they're not going to show, and there's no rust on these spots. They're just sort of overage when I was sanding. There was some like surface rust, but it's gone. This is just to fill in actual holes. So up here, and you'll probably see down here, there's a lot because of all the way, because it had been fixed already, there was a lot of unevenness when I started sanding. I mean, it was kind of uneven to begin with. So I'm trying to fix it all up. So I put the glazing putty over the whole area, and then I'll sand it down with like a 320 afterwards, and hopefully it'll be nice and smooth. I may have to do 1 or 2 layers of that. Once it's all, glazed and sanded, just wait another couple minutes and then I'll be able to put the primer on. So I now have everything's pretty much done here, but underneath, so everything looks good. Everything's pretty smooth. Underneath here, because I'm bad at this, it's quite messy. And I think I spilled some, I scratched it a little, so I'm going to try and just wet sand it and clean it off a bit.
Here we go now.
So I've got it all taped off, Chris Fix style here. Maybe add a little more, but I've got some Salt X primer filler. And yeah, I'm just gonna go nuts. I'm a little worried that I'm gonna be spraying a lot of area that is painted, but it seems to me that if I get it onto that, then it just sands off after. So we'll see what happens.
Here we go now.
So I went a little heavy on the first coat. It's dripping a bit, so I'll have to wait for it to dry. The can actually says to spray, wait 2 minutes and spray again. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait for it to dry, and then I'm going to sand off the drips a bit and then hit it again. And then wait for that to dry and then paint it. No problem, right? So I'm still concerned about the I guess I should. So I'm still concerned about the overspray here, and I don't really know how it's going to work out, but everything's primed, and now I'm going to try this paint. It's color matched the car, and it's supposed to include the clear coat. So let's get to it, and hopefully it doesn't look like a pile of crap after. Okay, so I have to admit here that after the primer, I was feeling pretty good. And then the paint, I started painting and it's a disaster. There's no other way to explain that. What happened was I started spraying the underside here. And I went on the first pass, I went one too many, I guess, or one too many passes. And I started dripping. So I thought maybe I could wipe it off really quickly. That made it worse. And then I was in panic mode, so I waited for it to dry a little bit and then started trying to sand it off. So I basically just abandoned it for that day and figured I'd let it dry for a couple days and then come back. So we're back here now. The lights look okay. They're still not great, but they look a lot better. But there's a lot of overspray. I'm gonna see if I can sand that off today. Yeah, pretty much everything went horribly wrong with the paint. So we'll see what happens next. At this point, I realized that there was no way it was going to look good unless I pulled that emblem off and did the whole area. Okay, I think I'm near the end here. I resanded it all, and then reprimed any spots. Like I resanded it with some 800 and some 1500. Primed the spots that were bare again. Resanded that. Primed it, or sanded it again with 1500. Remasked it all over the place. Repainted it. Had to go buy a second can of paint, of color match paint. So that's fine. And it's looking a lot better now. It's a little cold today. Probably shouldn't have sprayed, but I did anyway. So this is the last part I'm doing. Just waiting for this to dry. And I'll give it another coat. The lights are looking pretty good. Both sides. This side that I did by myself, looking better. This side where somebody had already touched it to repair it, not so good. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Okay, it's been a couple of days since I spray painted this stuff. So I'm just gonna pull all the paper off and show you what it looks like, and then I'll see if I can start sanding it. I've got 1500, more 1500, and then 2000, and then I've got some 3000, all wet sand. Hopefully once that's done I can just use some rubbing compound and then some wax and be good to go. Okay, so now I've gone over it with all 3 levels of sandpaper. It's supposed to be like a uniform haze over it. Definitely not that. Some massive paint lines, which I'm not gonna fix. This is just to get rid of the rust. Doesn't need to look amazing. I'll figure out some way to make it look awesome later. But for now, the rust looks like it's mostly fixed. So I'll just decide what I'm gonna do next. So really I can just buff it. But before I do that, what I think I'm gonna do is tape it off again and actually line, I've got some of that rubberized spray. Some of this. It's rubber. And I think I'm just gonna, because this one here was welded in. Somebody obviously welded in all new metal. So the lip that catches the water to make it all rusty, it's pretty much gone, although it was rusting again and bubbling again. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and just put rubber all on the inside here and all inside here, because the lip is still here. This was never welded in. And spray it in there, and then what I'll do, and that should keep, even if water does pool there, then that should keep the rust out, or it should stop the water from getting to the spot, to the metal, so it can form rust. The question is, do I want to do it under here? I'll decide that in a bit. For sure I'm gonna do the lights though. Okay, we're the day after. This is dry now. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. It's not as rubbery, but I guess it is rocker panel spray. Do I have it? This is the stuff I used. So let's take it off, take off the tape and see how it looks. I assume it's just gonna look less, or well, more hacky, not less hacky. Okay, so there's sort of a haze over all of this places where I use, the paint is not uniform, there's a haze everywhere. The last thing I'm gonna do is hit it with some of this stuff. And then throw some wax on it. Let's get to it. I picked up the old logo is all faded and chipping, so I picked up this new one, or the emblem. It's off eBay, there's no holes in it. It's metal though, I thought it'd be plastic to be honest, I think it was under $5. And I've got some 3M tape here. And I think the main thing I really need to be concerned with is just making sure that no water gets in these 2 holes. So I'll put the tape over those, stick this on, and should be good to go. Okay, so while it's done, I've now buffed it, washed it, put some quick wax onto it, and now you get to see the after. And it's about to rain, so I'm gonna try and do this quickly. I'll give you some close-up shots here. Well, here we are at the final product, and the question is, am I happy with it? Yeah, I think I am. There's some paint lines, and it looks a little rough, but it's my first shot, and I think it's going to keep the rust away for a while. So yeah, I am actually quite happy with it. It's been a long video. I appreciate you watching till the end. I'll see you next time.